Nighttime on still waters. This is NB 506812, narrowcasting into the night from somewhere on Britain's waterways. 20th of August, Thursday. An oak leaf, parched and crisp by the summer drought, floats on the surface of the canal. The water cups it gently, cushioning it within the meniscus of her palm, as if the canal knows that it's carrying something valuable and sacred. It's a still night. Bats swoop low across the glassy surface of the water. Shimmering rings betray where they have taken a drink. Above, drifts of cotton wool clouds glow ghostly pale and entangle the growing moon in the south. She peeks out shyly, casting silver on the sleeping waters, and then is gone, hiding once more. This is the narrowboat Erica, narrowcasting into the darkness of a late summer's night, to you, wherever you are. Welcome. It's so lovely to see you. I was hoping you'd be able to make it tonight. This is a beautiful night to sit back and enjoy. And the kettle is singing, the biscuit barrel is full, so come inside and welcome aboard. It's now midway through August, and the summer seems to have at last settled down into something like the summers that we are more familiar with. Towering cauliflower white cumuli that climb tall into the blue. I watch for their tops to flatten into anvils. We have had some rumbles of distant thunder, loud enough to make Maggie raise her head and glance at us to check that we've heard too, but no proper thunderstorm as yet. And that old adage, apparently attributed to King George II, of a British summer being 3 fine days and a thunderstorm, has been well and truly shot this year. But the temperatures this last week have returned more to normal, in the low 20s, that's roughly around 70 degrees Fahrenheit. T-shirt weather, with a frisson of cool first and last thing in the day. The other evening, we were out on the stern watching the sunset colours wash across the western skyline. And we've been having some amazing sunsets. When we turned to each other and, for the first time in about 3 months, said, I'm feeling distinctly chilly. I even went in and got a jumper. And this week, we've also had our first instances of wetting rain. It's been welcome. It felt so good. It's also been gentle, so no damage or wash off. It's obviously nowhere near enough, but I welcome it nonetheless. And toweling down Maggie from the rain after her walk rather than a swim has made rather a nice change. Please remind me of this when winter does come. And the canal remains closed, but water levels have returned. Actually, many of us think that it's as high as it was during the winter, following all of that rain. I'm not sure where all the water has come from, but the CRT strategy seems to be working in this respect at least. According to the CRT notices, the decision on whether or not the canal remains closed will be reviewed next Monday. So we'll wait and see. And I explained last episode what the closure of a canal meant in real terms to those who used it. Essentially, there's a prohibition of any movement unless it's for essential services. However, speaking to other boaters, there seems to be a lot of uncertainty about precisely what you can and can't do. Clearly, you're not allowed to go through the locks, and there's total agreement there. However, there have been a couple of boats who have been cruising up and down the Pound, although this has actually tailed off in recent weeks. And a local hire company has also continued to send its day boats out. It's quite a long stretch here between the locks, so it does allow a fairly decent cruise, and the canal is beautiful in this stretch. And I have also heard that the CRT are permitting this, as long as you keep your speed down. This is good, and will help to aerate the water, which was something that I've been worrying about. And it will also help that hire company. It must be really struggling at the moment. The bottom half of this canal was closed all last spring and then closed again a month or two after it reopened, all over the summer due to lack of water. And so for the closure to be repeated this summer, it must be really, really hard for them. However, in general terms, the canal remains silent, with no traffic at all on it. But the towpath remains busy, and the palette of harvest is emerging, and its paintbrush splashes the hedge sides liberally. Rose hips and haws are beginning to show in a blaze of scarlets and crimson, and necklaces of black bryony berries, pillar box red, are beginning to festoon the smoky ashes of willow herb and loosestrife. Slow, orbs of misty midnight and blackberries cluster in counterpoint. As I pass by, I pluck a blackberry. It lies heavy and full on my tongue, its juice sweet and sharp. It's amazing when you think about it. After all those long, long, dry days of heat, where does this liquid come from? Maggie stops to sniff as a moorhen rows jerkily across the canal, his beak full of yellow blades of reed. They drag along each side of him, like overlong pantomime mustachios. 2/3 of the way across, one of the leaves slips free. The moorhen circles back, dips his head low, and clamps it back between his beak, and continues the traverse. He disappears into a thicket that hangs down onto the canal, and I catch a glimpse of the head of another moorhen. The nest just above water level. It's cradled among the tangle of dead branches of a fallen hawthorn tree. I'm glad no boats are going past at the moment. It would take the bow wash of just one careless boater to wash it away. The female on the nest takes the offered leaves and with deft movements molds them into the cupped nest. The male watches as she does this, and then turns and leaves. He's aware of Maggie and me on the opposite bank, so he heads off along the offside bank away from us and the nest, perhaps in search of more nesting material. And the female settles back. I'm aware of the little red forehead patch, patiently sitting on the next brood of eggs, as we too move on. It's always lovely to hear from you, and thank you to everyone who got in contact with me. And thank you especially to Tanya Yorgay on the YouTube. That is such a lovely comment that you left, Tanya. It really touched me deeply. Thank you so much. And also John McMahon. John, may your cuppers remain being undisturbed. And greetings also to Sandra Hales and Amanda Keynes on Instagram. Thank you both, and I'm so glad that you do look forward to the podcasts. And Amanda, sorry, I realise that I'm assuming it's you, Amanda, and not Matt, and I don't know why I'm assuming it, and apologies if I'm wrong, but thank you so much for your very encouraging and kind words about my writing on the Instagram posts. I am, again, really touched and very much appreciate it. I do have a couple of ideas of publishing something in book form for sometime in the future, but at the moment, I just don't have time or the mental bandwidth to do anything. But thank you. Greetings also to Karen and Jason on the narrowboat Terra Rosa. It's lovely to see you both taking so well to this kind of life. And I have to say that your canal debrief vlogs are such a wonderful idea and really helpful, particularly your reflections on mooring spots and facilities. They're always a bit of a nightmare when you're planning or going on a new canal of where should I moor? Have I just passed that ideal mooring spot, or is there a better one round the corner? So brilliant idea. Well done. And over on Blue Sky, greetings to Christine Stovall. Sea swimming. How wonderful. I get rather jealous of just watching Maggie swim in the canal. So in all this heat, the thought of sea swimming is amazing. And also thank you for your comment on the last episode. And while on Blue Sky, greetings also to Anna McKellar. Anna, thank you so much for your comment. And yes, the guidance on what to do when a canal is closed is really difficult to follow because it's incredibly difficult to find. And I think you're right. Checking locally is much the best policy. And greetings on Mastodon to our old friend, Mind Shambles. And I wish you all the best with this new job. It sounds really exciting, and I actually imagine that you'd be brilliant at it. So may you find as much joy and a sense of fulfillment as I do from it. And finally, a huge thank you to all of our Lockwheelers for supporting this podcast. They are Anna McKellar, Susan Baker, Mind Shambles, Clare Hollingsworth, Kevin B., Fleur and David McLaughlin, Lois Raphael, Tanya Yorge, Andrea Hansen, Chris Hines, Chris and Alan on the narrowboat The Land of Green Ginger, Captain Arlo, Rebecca Russell, Alison on the narrowboat Mucker, Derek and Pauline on Silver Fox, Anna V., Orange Cookie, Mary Keane, Tony Rutherford, Arabella Holtzapfel, Rory with MJ and Kayla, the narrowboat Precious Jet, Linda Reynolds Perkins, Richard Noble, Carol Ferguson, Tracy Thomas, Mark and Tricia Stowe, and Madeline Smith. Thank you. The sun is low in the west, and the water is slabby and quarry grey. It's one of those times when it looks like we're floating over a bottomless chasm. Even the light cannot penetrate it. It glances off the choppy wavelets like sparks flashing off clashed steel. And a blustering wind blows the water into racing ripples, as if the canal was being pushed by a flooding tide. And the peaks are big and thick enough to lift the lone female mallard that ploughs her way across the silver sun path of dancing light. Earlier, a geese flew overhead, a ragged stream, unlike the tight arrow-edged discipline of their usual flight profile. It was more like the fluid rills of mountainside burns that cascade in torn linen-like waterfalls down damp gullies and gills steeped with wet moss and heather. But nonetheless, they fill the sky with their calls that bury themselves deep in the hidden, sequestered places of our beings. And around this time of evening, the kingfisher flies past, one last time. A darting flash of bronze or blue, sometimes small eruptions of water as he dives. At other times, his presence is more felt than seen. A grey flicker in the gloaming. No light to catch his vivid plumage. And tonight, an arrow flight, a glimpse of white, keeping to the contours of the canal, and then out of sight. No pauses to dive this time. Perhaps it's been a good day, and his belly is already full. And around the hull of the boat next to us, in the dark water, minnows flash silver. Just below the waterline, they form lines like dressmakers' pins stuck to a magnet. A firework constellation of glittering movement. Never stationary, always on the go, feasting on the algae that collects on the hull. And behind them, a crowd of them hang in a nebulous cloud, waiting their turn. They remind me of those images of brain scans that show neural pathways and flashing synapses, or the clouds you get at night time when there's sheet lightning. There's no apparent order, but there's also some unseen system at work here. A fish flicks into the sudden vacant gap in the feeding line, grabs a few mouthfuls, and then, flash, it disappears back into the cloud. And then immediately the gap that it's left is filled by another fish. And there's no sense of a need to compete with each other for a space at the hull. Each fish seems to know or be aware that there is enough food here for everyone, and that their turn will come. There seems to be no bullying or fighting for a space. Minnows don't seem to be plagued with the problem of one or two individuals hoarding all the resources. And it's not a queue. It's the opposite of a queue, but it also operates exactly like a queue. I'd love to know how it works. I could watch them all evening, this busy throng. There's something strangely calming about them, and all their movement. And just a few feet away from them, the carp glide and forage. Every now and then they break the surface. The soft curve of their back and their dorsal fin mirroring the arc of their motion. For so long, language and communication has been viewed as a uniquely human accomplishment. Although there have always been pockets of older knowledge and law that have disagreed. But in our culture of human exceptionalism, these older ideas have generally been dismissed as eccentric whimsy or intellectual naivety. But more recently, research has given their claims more credence. conceptions of language and communication have broadened way beyond that of vocalizations and speech. And communication now seems to be everywhere. And it's even here, beneath the surface of the water. It's long been known that aquatic mammals like whales, dolphins, and porpoises communicate with each other through vocalizations and non-vocal techniques. Sharks are also known to communicate with each other, using body posture as well as electrical and chemical cues. And while research into other fish is still in very early days, recent studies are re-looking and reassessing those strange popping, grunting, and clicking noises that they seem to be almost constantly emitting. Up until now, there's been a tendency to explain them away as purely mechanical, associated often with feeding, mandibles snapping shut, swim bladders adjusting for buoyancy. However, researchers are beginning to find patterns and complexities within this underwater soundscape that suggest some of these sounds at least are being used to communicate with each other. These noises pointing also to ways of communicating danger, the location of food resources, maybe even contact calling. Because water is denser than air, sounds travel faster and further. The aquatic world is far from silent. Let's listen in. Listen to this watery world that is so close and yet at the same time also so distant to us. One that we're intimately a part of and yet also so very alien to. But let's slip back to the swelter and blaze of those hot days when the carp dozed just below the surface and damselflies darted from duckweed frond to duckweed frond. And as the kingfisher shimmers past on wings of fiery blue, and the sun sinks further west behind the old ash leaning on the hill above us, and the loosestrife and bedstraw, thistle and reed still resonate with bee and butterfly wings. Because the evenings follow hot days are always the most active. And while we humans relax into the cool, and conversations can be heard across the water, and from time to time the smell of meals cooking, the fish too seem to gain their second wind. This is the time when the mirrored waters, cast bronze and ruddy gold by the sun, erupt with fish breaking the surface and sending coppery rings across the waters. And let's slip below the surface and listen. What you will hear is what the fish sense. Those subaquatic sounds that are part of their world. It's the sound of hundreds of minnows feeding off steel hulls, clustering in their nebulous glittering clouds and then individually darting to feed when a space appears for them. And the carp and roach just below the surface, foraging gnats and drowning midges. And the clicks and pops they make, insensible to us, but they know what they mean. They will read them as easily as we read the shifting shadows that cross our days, or the smell of rain in the air. And have you ever wondered what ducks swimming overhead must sound like to a fish? Well, at the end of this recording, you will hear just that. And for tonight's night view through the window, we got a really special treat because we get to look through the porthole of the narrowboat Precious jet, and in the company of none other than the irrepressible Steve Tyrrell. And please look out for Steve on YouTube. He has some great narrowboat content and has been doing some wonderful video shorts going through various tunnels. They're great. Although, be warned, there's also a liberal sprinkling of truly appalling dad jokes too. Steve sent me a little video looking through the window, and obviously I can't show it here, but we'll try to find a way to link it to the podcast website. However, his commentary is so lovely and so warm and human. I just have to play it here.
So, not technically out of the window, but out of my duck hatch in the engine room. We have the Nickelodeon pub in Wolverhampton, another narrowboat, and a nice old bridge. That narrowboat's got a 2LW engine, same as mine, and it sounds amazing. So that's the view out of my portholey window.
I really love it, Steve. Thank you. And now, this is the narrowboat Erica signing off for the night and wishing you a very restful and peaceful night. Good night. Temperature outside 13.2 degrees. Inside 20 degrees. Humidity 24%. Dew point 6 degrees. Wind direction north. Wind strength 4 miles per hour. Barometric pressure 1024.4 rising. Cloud cover 50%. Cloud ceiling 40,000 feet. Precipitation nil. Moon phase 75.3%. Waxing gibbous. Day length 14 hours 15 minutes. Sunset 2017. Sky casting 6:03.